Santiago has now been working for the crystal merchant for almost a month. It is not the kind of job that makes him happy, but he sticks with it because the merchant treats him fairly. Santiago calculates that if he continues to work for the merchant, it will take a whole year to earn the money to buy a flock of sheep. He then comes to the crystal merchant with an idea. He proposes building a display case for the crystal that could be placed outside to attract the attention of people passing by. The merchant worries that the case will get bumped and the crystal will get broken. The crystal merchant tells Santiago that business has improved, and soon Santiago will be able to return to his sheep. Why, he wonders, would Santiago ask any more from life? Santiago says that they must follow omens. The merchant understands what the boy is saying, because Santiago's very presence in the shop is an omen. The crystal merchant asks Santiago why he wants to get to the pyramids. Santiago says only that he wanted to visit because he's heard so much about them. He tells the crystal merchant that he must have never had dreams of travel. 2 days later, the crystal merchant speaks to Santiago about the display. He says that he does not like change. He asks Santiago why he thinks they should build the display. Santiago says that he wants to get back to his sheep faster and that they should take advantage of the situation, as luck is on their side. He calls that the principle of favorability, or beginner's luck. The crystal merchant tells Santiago that, in the Quran, God gave every person just 5 obligations to satisfy. They are believing in God, praying 5 times a day, fasting during Ramadan, and being charitable to the poor. Tears come to the crystal merchant's eyes as he speaks about the Prophet, Muhammad, but unnamed here. Santiago asks what the 5th obligation is. The crystal merchant says that the 5th obligation is a pilgrimage to Mecca. He says that when he was young, all he wanted was to make enough money so that he could travel to Mecca. While he has been working in his shop, he has met travelers on the way to Mecca, and some are much poorer than he. Santiago wonders why the crystal merchant does not go to Mecca now. The crystal merchant explains that it's the thought of Mecca that keeps him alive. He is afraid that if his dream is realized, he'll have no reason to go on living. He says that he just wants to dream about Mecca, and not actually achieve his dream. He is afraid it would be a disappointment to reach the holy city, and therefore prefers to simply dream. But he gives Santiago permission to build the outdoor display. 2 more months pass, and the display brings many people into the crystal shop. Santiago estimates that if he works for 6 more months, he can return to Spain and buy 60 sheep. Now Egypt is just a distant dream for him, and he has become happy in his work. He remembers that Melchizedek said you must always know what it is you want, and Santiago feels that he knows what he wants and is working toward it. He's proud of himself. He has learned how to deal with crystal, he has learned about a language that transcends words, and he has learned about omens. One day, Santiago overhears a man in the street complaining that it is impossible to find a decent place to get something to drink after the steep climb up the hill. The boy sees this as an omen, and he tells the crystal merchant that they should also sell tea in their shop. They could sell the tea in the crystal glasses so that people would buy the tea, and also be encouraged to buy the glasses. The crystal merchant tells Santiago that he's had the shop for so long that he knows what will happen if they start to serve tea. The shop will expand and it will change the crystal merchant's way of life. Santiago thinks this must be a good thing, but the crystal merchant disagrees, because he is used to the way things are. The crystal merchant tells Santiago that he has been a real blessing to him, but now he has also realized that every blessing, when it is ignored, becomes a curse. In this way, Santiago has become a curse because he has presented the crystal merchant with new possibilities. Now the crystal merchant knows the things he should be able to accomplish, even though he doesn't want to do these things. The crystal merchant completes their conversation with the word maktub. Santiago asks him what this means. The crystal merchant translates it as "it is written." He tells the boy that they can start selling tea in the crystal glasses. Sometimes there is no way to stop change when it is coming. Customers climb the hill and are tired when they reach the top. They see a crystal shop which offers fresh mint tea. When they drink the tea from the beautiful crystal glasses, they are impressed and buy some crystal. Before long the news spreads, and many people climb the hill just to visit the shop that sells both crystal and tea. The crystal merchant hires 2 other employees to keep up with growing demand. The months pass. One day Santiago awakes before dawn. It has been more than 11 months since he came to Africa. He dresses for the day in Arabian clothing. He smokes and drinks his morning tea in silence, and when he is finished, he reaches into his pocket and withdraws a bundle of money. It is enough money to buy 120 sheep, plus a return ticket to his homeland and a license to import African products into his own country. When the crystal merchant wakes up and comes into the shop, Santiago tells him that he is leaving that day. They both have enough money to fulfill their dreams. Santiago asks the crystal merchant for his blessing. The crystal merchant says that he is proud of Santiago, but he says that he is not going to Mecca, just as Santiago is not going to buy back his sheep. Santiago is startled, and wonders who told the merchant this. "Maktub," the crystal merchant replies. Santiago goes to his room and packs his belongings, and as he's leaving he finds his old shepherd's pouch. As he removes his jacket from the pouch, the stones Urim and Thummim fall to the ground. The stones make Santiago remember Melchizedek, and he is startled by how long it has been since he has thought of the old king, and his reminder to never stop dreaming. Santiago picks up the stones and has a strange feeling, as if the old king is nearby. He reflects that his sheep taught him something very important, that there was a language in the world that everyone understands. Santiago remembers that Melchizedek told him that when you want something, the universe conspires to help you achieve it, but he hadn't said anything about the hardships that Santiago would face. Santiago picks up his pouch and puts it with his other packed belongings. Downstairs, he finds the crystal merchant helping a foreign couple. For the first time, he reflects on the similarities between the crystal merchant and the old king. He leaves without saying goodbye, because he does not want to cry in front of the clients. He is going to miss the shop and the things that he learned there. Santiago tells himself that he is going to return to the fields he knows and to his flock, but he is not happy with this decision. He wonders if it is better to be like the crystal merchant and never go to Mecca, or to go through life trying to realize one's dream, but failing. But Urim and Thummim have now reminded him of the old king, and Santiago convinces himself that he should go to the pyramids in Egypt, because he may never have another chance. Although he is only 2 hours from home and a desert away from the pyramids, he decides to think of this in terms of being 2 hours closer to his treasure. Santiago decides to pursue his treasure, and suddenly feels tremendously happy. He reminds himself that he can always go back to being a shepherd, or that he can become a crystal salesman again. He seeks out a caravan crossing the desert, and he holds Urim and Thummim in his hand as he does so. He remembers the old king telling him that he is always nearby whenever someone wants to realize his personal legend. Meanwhile, an Englishman is sitting on a bench in a warehouse. As he leafs through his chemical journal, he tells himself that he thought he would never end up in a place like this. He believes in omens, and he's working on finding the one true language of the universe. First he studied Esperanto, then world religions, and most recently alchemy. He feels that although he has discovered important truths about alchemy, he is not yet an alchemist. He hopes to find an alchemist to serve as his mentor. The Englishman has spent much of his family's fortune seeking the Philosopher's Stone, which is the masterwork of all alchemists. Through his research, he learned of a famous alchemist who is said to have discovered the Philosopher's Stone and the elixir of life. He learned that this alchemist lives in the desert, at the Al-Fayum oasis, so he decided to go in search of the alchemist. As the Englishman is waiting for the caravan, a young Arab arrives. The Arab boy asks the Englishman where he is headed. The Englishman does not want to talk, so the boy takes out a book and begins to read. The Englishman notices that the boy's book is written in Spanish, and he is relieved, because his Spanish is better than his Arabic. Santiago is trying to read the burial scene at the beginning of his book. He realizes that he has never been able to read past the first few pages of this book. Instead of reading, Santiago reflects that when he had decided to seek out his treasure, he actually ended up working in the crystal shop. Now he has decided to join a desert caravan, but the next step of this journey is a mystery to him. Nearby, the Englishman is also reading. Santiago puts away his book and takes out Urim and Thummim. The Englishman recognizes the stones, and Santiago immediately returns them into his pocket. "They're not for sale," he tells the Englishman, who laughingly says that they're not worth much, but that those who know about such things would immediately have recognized them. Santiago tells him that a king gave the stones to him as a present. The Englishman takes a matching pair of stones out of his pocket. Santiago says that the Englishman must not believe a king would talk to someone like him, a simple shepherd. The Englishman says that shepherds were the first to recognize a king when the rest of the world did not, so it's not surprising that any king would talk to shepherds. He tells Santiago that this story is in the Bible, and that the Bible is the same book that taught him about Urim and Thummim. In the Bible, priests would carry these stones embedded in their golden breastplates. The Englishman tells Santiago that there is a universal language already understood by everybody. He says he is in search of that language, and hopes to find an alchemist in the desert who can teach him more. The warehouse boss arrives, interrupting Santiago and the Englishman's conversation. He tells them that there's a caravan leaving today for Al-Fayum. The Englishman says that this must be a good luck omen. He feels it was no coincidence that he met Santiago, who also had Urim and Thummim with him. Santiago tells the Englishman that he is looking for a treasure. The Englishman responds that in a certain way, he is doing the same. Santiago admits to the Englishman that he doesn't know what alchemy is. The leader of the caravan introduces himself to the people who will be accompanying him across the desert. There are about 200 people and 400 animals. The leader of the caravan says that there are a lot of different people accompanying the caravan, and they believe in many different forms of God. He tells his followers that the only God he serves is Allah, and he swears on Allah that he will do everything possible to protect the people in his caravan. But he wants the people to swear by their gods that they will follow his instructions, because in the desert, disobedience means death.